Okay, hey everybody. Decided to create a video, resurrect the YouTube channel. Not really. We're going to do some repair vids in the future, but for now I've got the repair rig put away. So what I wanted to talk about tonight is cryptocurrency. A lot of people have been coming on to me about what it is, why they should buy it, whether they should have any interests, whether they should put any money into it, and it's a difficult one for me to field without people having like the basic understanding of cryptocurrency. And I appreciate that although people have probably heard about Bitcoin for a long time, it may now be coming to the fore. It's certainly looking like a much more interesting proposition from an investment standpoint. Not that I'm any expert in the world of investing, but with the way things are going in the world with regards to inflation and depreciation of currency, there is certainly more reason for you to have an interest in an asset that avoids some of the pitfalls of inflation and debasement of currency. So because people have been coming to me and asking about it, I wanted to give sort of one video that I can point people to that gives just the basics. Full disclaimer, I'm not a financial advisor. Obviously, I'm an IT guy, so you can't take anything I say as financial advice. That's also one of the rules of YouTube. If you're not a licensed financial advisor, you shouldn't be giving financial advice, and there are risks with investing in cryptocurrency as with any investment. But that's kind of boilerplate text. The reality is that personally I invest in cryptocurrency, not just Bitcoin, other coins as well. And I personally believe, and this is my opinion, not financial advice, this is my opinion, that cryptocurrency will, as a market, gain a lot of traction over the next 10 years to become, it already is a major feature of financial markets, but to become even more so. So I want to keep this video as short as possible and try not to ramble. The primary goal here is to just explain to people who are very new to this, maybe just hearing about this, or have just been following what I've been doing on Facebook publicly, where we've actually made a really good return on a token called VET, which is for VeChain, which is a really interesting cryptocurrency, well, a Bitcoin derivative, or it's really a derivative of Ethereum, but it's a very interesting crypto, but it's not the whole story. It is just one thing that we've invested in, and that investment has paid off to the tune of 50% over 2 months, which is a little bit exceptional. Although obviously you've heard the stories of people making millions or even billions from investing relatively small amounts in crypto. To be clear, I think the days of that might be coming to an end. You can still make really, really good money trading crypto and, well, buying and holding crypto, in my personal opinion. But I don't think it's going to be very likely, unless you're a gambling sort, that you're going to put a few thousand into something and end up with a few million. If that is the case, I hope I'm on it with you. I could certainly do with a few million. So I've broken it down into three bullet points for this particular video, which is what is it. So I'm going to try and explain in very simple terms. I'm not going to go into technically what cryptocurrency is. I'm not going to talk about the maths behind cryptocurrency. To be honest, a lot of it I don't understand properly myself. It's very complicated. You'll have to take some of what I say on faith, but as we'll see shortly, and as you can see in the top assets by market cap listing here, there's an awful lot of money in Bitcoin that suggests it's not just something I think. It's something that people with an awful lot of money to invest think as well. You're going to have to trust the fact that I tell you this is a value asset. But obviously do your own research. Have a look at the history of Bitcoin and what other people, especially what other people think. There's people from JP Morgan Chase. There's Michael Saylor, who's a pretty now notorious investor in Bitcoin. You'll get a lot of interesting opinions. There's several US mayors who are taking their pay or electing to take some of their pay in Bitcoin. There's a lot of news in the space, so feel free to go out and research. I'll just keep to the basics and try to explain it in as sort of short format a way as possible to answer the questions that you might have about whether you should be involved. So what is it? What is Bitcoin? Okay, so Bitcoin's an asset. You don't really have to even understand the concept of Bitcoin to just treat it as an asset, which is what it is. You can see here, I've got this list up. This is a list of the most valuable assets on planet Earth. Microsoft is number 2. Now, I didn't know when they flipped Apple, but that's quite interesting. 2.521 trillion market capitalization. So that means the value of all their shares, effectively. And as we go down, we've got Apple, Saudi Aramco, I'm assuming oil, Alphabet, Amazon, silver. So there are obviously precious metal commodities. You've got silver and gold on here, followed by Bitcoin ahead of Tesla, who are one of the best performing assets recently. Look at that graph there. Now, these are things that you can buy and sell. So obviously these publicly traded companies here, you can buy and sell shares in them at, this is the price of a share, and it'll go up or down. And after commission, if it's gone up enough, when you sell it, you obviously make a tidy profit. And that is how the wealthy of this world lock away their what we call value, which is something I'm going to come on to in a minute. Bitcoin is the 8th biggest tradable commodity in the world. Okay, so a lot of people watching this are probably don't really understand Bitcoin and think it's some kind of small, weird, nerdy computer thing that's making a bunch of weird nerds rich. And I think for a long time it was. I should have been one of those weird nerds, but I got rid of and or lost a lot of my Bitcoin back in the day. So what, in order to sort of appreciate the innate potential of Bitcoin, you've got to realize that before most of the world has even accepted and realized what Bitcoin is, that it is the 8th most valuable asset on planet Earth. It's overtaken silver once already, and it probably will again. It's expected that it will overtake several of these companies in the coming months. It's not expected that it's going to be able to exceed the value of gold in the near term. I mean, if you look, there's a significant market cap differential there. Let me just get my cursor on here. 11.6 trillion for gold. Whereas the nearest company to that, Microsoft, is only at 2.52 trillion. Interesting thing is, though, is that gold's market cap is not likely to change vastly, whereas some of these others will, especially Bitcoin. And of course, as Bitcoin marches up here, obviously the price per Bitcoin will change. So that brings me back to what is it? So you can buy Bitcoin through cryptocurrency exchanges. You buy it in Satoshis, which are divisions of a single Bitcoin, because obviously at present market, Bitcoin is nearly 50,000, has passed £50,000, nearly $70,000 to buy one Bitcoin. And obviously most people are not able to buy entire Bitcoins. So that's divisible by Satoshis. You can buy any amount of Bitcoin you wish, down to, a few pounds worth. So in order to buy Bitcoin, you basically join a cryptocurrency exchange and invest whatever amount of money you feel in Bitcoin, and then that Bitcoin will sit in your cryptocurrency account. You're also able to move it from cryptocurrency accounts online. You're able to put it into what we call cold storage, which is where you pull it off and keep it in a hardware wallet. These things do get quite technical, but they are quite easy to address. It's likely you need to do a little bit of research if you're planning to do it all yourself, but you can also enlist the help of cryptocurrency specialists. If you are going to invest significantly in crypto, you can obviously get help. I offer that help. Quick Call Computers. I don't give financial advice on it, but I do allow you to buy, hold, keep, sell, etc. So it's a commodity that you can buy, you can hold on to, and then when it's more valuable in the future, you can sell. So it's what's called a store of value. A little bit like gold. Gold is famous for this. Wealthy people traditionally will buy gold when we're in times of economic crisis, because as the markets start to dip and we go into a recession, the price of gold will tend to stay fairly stable versus, for example, the stock exchange. So, no rich people really hold on to cash above and beyond what they need. I think it is quite famously said by in an interview that I heard not long ago, that where an analyst in the financial world said all the way rich people stay rich is they invest everything in things that go up, and then when they need money they just borrow against it. And that was actually something I was quite taken aback by and impressed by, that it's that cynical. But rich people just don't bother having money, cash money, really. I grew up believing to be this quite solid asset. It was the only guaranteed thing, and it turns out that no, that's just something they tell poor people and the working class. What the truth of the matter is that cash will constantly depreciate, so the longer you hold cash, the worse off you are. That's because of inflation. Again, I'm not going to get into economics. I'm definitely not a scholar of economics, but as governments print more money, the value of the money in your bank becomes less and less. So the number doesn't go down. Sometimes the number goes up, but unfortunately the value goes down because there's more and more cash going into circulation. And then when you get something like the recent pandemic, or sometimes when there's a war or some other global crisis, government printing goes into overdrive, and you get much higher levels of inflation. I remember listening to an interview with Michael Saylor, who, again, he's a famous CEO and and investor, and he basically said that his $1 billion that he was holding on his company's balance sheet was going to lose approximately $250 million a year if he didn't do something about it. I mean, obviously that was going to scale with time, so he wouldn't be completely bankrupt in 4 years, but I mean, the first year he would lose $250 million, and that's what spurred him on to investing in Bitcoin. And if you hold any amount of cash in the bank, you really do need to pay attention to sort of what I'm saying. I mean, read up on inflation if you must, read up on the debasement of currency, but the reality is that any money you hold now in a savings account that isn't appreciating at some unfathomable rate that a savings account these days will never give you, you really need to have a think about how you're storing value in any money you have. Obviously, if you're investing in property, buying a house, etc., that's a fantastic store of value, possibly still exceeded by Bitcoin, but of course it's a guaranteed asset. I mean, even if I think Bitcoin is guaranteed to go on to bigger things, there is always the chance of something coming out that we don't know about that would destroy some of the value, if not all of the value, in the worst case scenario of Bitcoin. So property is definitely one of the best, and you could argue that gold still has a place, but Bitcoin has a few other like cards up its sleeve. For example, Bitcoin is considered uncorruptible currency, and that was something I really enjoyed listening to a long form explanation of. But because Bitcoin exists independent of governments, independent of any kind of regime or any kind of entity that can edit or change or alter it. I mean, a Bitcoin is worth what it's worth. Yes, it's worth different things relative to different currencies, but it's still fundamentally got that base value. A lot of people say it's not even a good idea to think of Bitcoin anymore as being so worth so many pounds, because the actual fundamental value of the Bitcoin itself is quite important. But that might be getting into some sort of philosophy on future currencies. The important part of it is that it's something that can't be sort of manipulated by governments, and that sounds very tinfoil hatty, but it really isn't. I mean, if you look at the money in your bank and what I've just said about how governments printing money to fund initiatives debases the money in your bank and causes you to be poorer whilst having the same amount of money, then you've got to realize that the only place you can store value is outside of the realm of currency. That it's not possible to maintain your wealth, assuming you are, a modest individual who is not not hideously wealthy. You do have limited options to fight inflation. And crypto is one of those things that has come along and become an incredible tool for that, should people choose to use it. And we are only just getting to the point that the world is waking up to that. I mean, there are people who've been doing it for years, and some of them were seen as being kind of crazy in the years gone past. But it is looking ever more like Bitcoin will at least be comparable and comparative to gold as a store of value, if not something that in time surpasses gold. As I say, it's uncorruptible, it's uncounterfeitable, it's limited in supply, and that's the one thing that economists point to as being the most powerful thing about Bitcoin, is that there will only ever be, I think, 21 million Bitcoins in circulation. And that will go down with time, because when Bitcoins are lost or even sometimes destroyed on purpose, the value of the remaining supply obviously goes up. So Bitcoin is a very unique commodity. It's something that's different to anything that's ever existed before. It's a completely new type of asset that can be bought and traded and has its own properties. It isn't like gold. Most of gold is locked up by governments, so it's not widely distributed. I mean, you could argue that jewelry and things are all over the world, but they're such small quantities. There is also an argument that that's what might happen to Bitcoin in the end, but in the meantime, hey, we can all make a lot of money. We've actually moved in right now to the why buy it section, so sorry if I am rambling between points, but the main reason to buy this new asset class and invest in it is that it's relatively easy to do, and it's relatively safe in the sense that it's not corruptible. The downsides to Bitcoin do exist. The market isn't guaranteed to take off to the heights that it's anticipated. I mean, again, look at the fact that it has a capitalization of 1.265 trillion. It's number 8 trading asset in the world. It's got a lot of too big to fail going for it at the moment, and that's what a lot of people are saying. They're saying that we finally reached the point, and that's why it's likely that at this point is more important than ever for people who wish to get involved in Bitcoin to get involved, because it's probably going to really take off in the next few years, and the margin for gains is going to reduce. It will always be, in my opinion, a great store of value regardless, because you'll be able to use it as a hedge against world events, against currency, against inflation, against stock market. It's going to be used like that, but obviously you're not going to see doublings and triplings of the value when we look forward to the future. At the moment, it's likely that Bitcoin itself will see a 10x over the next 15 years. Again, not financial advice, it's just sort of the general sentiment is that it will continue to grow. It will continue to be adopted. What have we got? We've got El Salvador, a country who have adopted it as their primary currency. So everybody in El Salvador trades in Bitcoin now. It's not been without its hassle, but the government did point out in a news report not that long ago that the government has been buying, and not a rich country by any means. There are plenty of individuals who have invested more in Bitcoin than El Salvador, but El Salvador did invest something like 50-60 million in US dollar equivalent in Bitcoin, and so far with the profits have been able to build 20 schools. So I mean, you want a feel-good story about Bitcoin, I mean, that's fantastic. Can you imagine if our government, instead of spending money, was investing in an asset like Bitcoin and able to provide maybe healthcare or schools, roads, something with it, and reduce our council tax bill? Yeah, funny that they could be doing that, and instead they do what they do. But hey, different conversation for a different day. It's been adopted in America as part of a payroll system amongst quite a few different state leaders. There's been, I think, several city mayors in the United States who are into Bitcoin, or who are what we call bullish on Bitcoin, have opted to take a portion of their salary in Bitcoin, so they obviously see some of the appeal. I mean, of course, these people are not going to be poorly paid. They can probably afford to have a portion of their salary paid in a potentially explosive asset. I mean, it's certainly something I would do if I was paid enough. If I do it with the pay I do get, I still put some into Bitcoin where I can. So that's probably going to spread. It's going to instill confidence in it. The regulators in the West seem to be holding off. Obviously, we've heard about the Chinese Bitcoin ban, or you maybe haven't if you're listening to this video, but the Chinese, who were one of the biggest producers of Bitcoin through mining, they banned it. But this wasn't surprising for a totalitarian government, when one of the core principles of Bitcoin is that it's completely free and would give people finance free from state, not something known to be popular in communist countries. So I don't think Bitcoin being banned there was a big deal. They're going to come out with their own cryptocurrency. I don't know what's going to happen in China. I mean, I think it's going to turn out to be a big mistake. A lot of people have said that they could have continued to mine Bitcoin and sell it abroad, even if they did ban the usage. They had a really great infrastructure for it with really low energy costs. That said, probably was one of the causes of major, you might have heard the stories about how Bitcoin's a big polluter. Well, most of the electricity in China, an awful lot of the electricity in China comes from coal-fired plants, which are obviously some of the worst polluters. So maybe it all moving to the United States and Texas and places where they can put massive solar farms, etc., is not going to be the end of the world. But other than China's sort of abstinence or exit from the field, which in all honesty hardly affected the market, giving you even more confidence that on a country by country basis it's possibly very difficult to take down Bitcoin at this point. Other than them, the adoption and regulation has been widespread. There's been exchange funds, futures trading funds, which again, a financial institute I'm not too knowledgeable about myself, but they are a method for traditional finance world. You want to see numbers that make these market caps look crazy. You can look at the amount of money that's traded on the various futures exchanges around the world, on the all sorts of again, it's not something I'm that familiar with, but when there are all kinds of financial mechanisms that people use to generate capital. Hedge funds use them, pension funds use them, asset managers use them, and these have values in the 400-500 trillion range. It's an exceptional amount of money. The majority of the world's wealth is contained in those institutions, and one of those institutions is ETF, which is a sort of I believe it to be a guaranteed trading platform. And Canada and a few other countries have launched ETFs for trading futures, which is just another way of trading, of betting on, shall we say, the profitability of things. And in this case, they are crypto futures. So these exchanges allow people to invest money through major institutions in the crypto space. So again, without going into too much detail, that's a very positive thing for the crypto space. So basically all things are looking good for Bitcoin going forward, but it's not just Bitcoin that we're here for. Obviously, I mentioned at the top of this that I put up a public trade of VeChain. It was just a small trade, just a £500 investment. I had some inklings myself, but been tipped off mainly by a couple of big traders that I listen to, who seem to do rather well and have their ear to the ground professionally on this. Don't have a day job, I guess. They just do this for a living. I stuck a £500 trade in this VeChain, and it's currently trading up 50%. So I got about £750. I mean, you can't knock that in a couple of months. And most of my other assets have traded quite well as well, with a few notable exceptions. But basically, there are derivatives of Bitcoin that mean you don't just have to you don't just have to invest in Bitcoin, and these derivatives can offer better returns but carry a higher risk. So I didn't want to get too far into any of that in this video as such. I mean, obviously, once you decide you want to invest in cryptocurrency, you're going to look into it, and you're probably going to talk to people, and depending on who you talk to, you might just decide to put some money into Bitcoin and forget about it. You might decide that you want to diversify your portfolio of crypto into a few different assets. And again, there'll be plenty of people out there who can give you tips on that, including myself again, although I can't offer financial advice, but I can tell you what I am diversified into. You can start buying and selling and trading and holding. Holding is my preferred stance. cryptocurrency, and hopefully it will enable you to become financially free in the future. Because that is really the goal. This is an opportunity that is only going to happen during, maybe this 20-year period. I mean, obviously the best timing opportunity is behind us, but we are still very early in the crypto space. It may be the 8th most valuable asset on planet Earth, but it is still not being invested in as heavily as other markets. And the simple fact is that Bitcoin, and it's you've got Bitcoin there on this this little chart here. We've got Bitcoin at 2.65 trillion. Okay, the entire crypto space, the entire market cap of the crypto space is I think it just passed 3 trillion in the recent pump. So Bitcoin makes up almost half of the entire crypto market cap, right? And then you look at the fact that Microsoft, one of thousands of companies, makes up more than a trillion more than Bitcoin. So you can imagine that when you add Microsoft, Apple, Saudi Aramco, Amazon, blah blah, you go all the way down, all of these companies, everything but the precious metals, and you think about the market cap combined, I think it's like 200 trillion or whatever. And you imagine that when Bitcoin and its derivatives become another, because they're basically mirroring this. So if you imagine you've got the stocks and shares market, which is the publicly traded companies, then you've got the gold and silver, precious metals market, and then you've got the pink ones, Bitcoin, and currently Bitcoin and Ethereum are the only two I think that really show up this high up. I don't know if we got any if we go down. I don't know where even the next market cap is. It's quite low. I mean, we're still in the hundreds of billions down here. You imagine when this board is peppered with purples like this, which is likely to happen. I mean, Bitcoin is likely to rise to sit up around the top of this, maybe just, ducking and weaving with gold. But there will be others, including Ethereum, will probably ride up to somewhere around the silver mark if Bitcoin is nearing the top, and beyond possibly. And there are other things that are looking to challenge Ethereum that will come along and share market cap, and you'll end up with a few more things on this list. And then so when we talk about whether or not Bitcoin's market cap can eclipse Microsoft's market cap, well, yeah, it probably can. But I tell you what, Bitcoin is not the entire crypto space. The entire crypto space, already exceeds Microsoft's anyway at 3 trillion. But it will, likely exceed, the combined total of a lot of these given time. So, yeah, I think that basically sums it all up. I mean, I think I'd be retreading ground if I carry on, and we've probably run pretty long here, 27 minutes. I want to keep it under half an hour because people will fall asleep. I'm quite boring to listen to. The only other thing I want to say is, how do you buy it? If you're looking to get into it, how do you buy it? What's the safe way to do it? Okay, I'll do it simply. If you are confident and comfortable and you want to manage your own profile, and obviously you want to avoid fees, then start by getting into Coinbase. So download probably the Coinbase app or go to Coinbase on the web, set up an account. You will need to do all the usual verification like you would with a bank, including KYC, know your customer, because of tax reasons. And bear in mind there are tax implications for buying and selling commodities, the same as there would be in the stocks and shares market and the precious metals commodities, etc. So sign up with Coinbase. You can use British debit, credit cards, etc. to buy your crypto from there. Obviously, buy with care. You can keep your crypto online with Coinbase. There are so many solutions for offline wallets that I'm not even going to really suggest one. If you're going to get involved at levels in excess of £100,000, let's say, or even higher, then if you don't feel comfortable doing the research on wallets yourself, speak to anybody in IT who you can trust to get some help. Obviously, again, Quick Call Computers, I can help you with that if needs be, but you need to know how to get your money offline. You don't want to be keeping more than 6 figures on an exchange. Nobody does. You can keep 10, 15, 20,000. Just make sure you've got your passwords stored safely. Make sure you've got two-factor authentication on. You don't want to have the name of your dog as the password to your crypto exchange with 19 grand in it. That's asking for trouble. They are going to be attacked a lot, and they are much more vulnerable than your bank. Because if somebody does get into your account, they can anonymously transfer crypto away. There's a huge amount of safeguards in place on the exchanges, as long as you make sure that you've set those up when you take out the account. Obviously, like I said, I recommend don't keep too much in the online exchanges, just in case. I did once lose a Bitcoin, which is now £50,000 worth, in an exchange crash 8 years ago. Obviously 8 years ago it wasn't worth so much, so I can't cry, but that happening now to me would be very painful. Obviously times have changed, but I do still keep a reasonable amount in online exchanges, so I feel comfortable saying it's okay to do that, but only to a point. I mean, if you get to six figures, you've got to be looking at it a bit more carefully. That's an entire a real big chunk of money for most people. So yeah, if you want to buy Bitcoin, I recommend get a Coinbase account, start buying some Bitcoin and some Ethereum. Obviously, maybe I'll be able to do some other videos on some of the other cryptocurrencies, but there's a lot out there. Listen to as many sources as you can. If you want somebody just to manage your investment and take it all out of your hands, I am setting something up to do that. You will be able to come to me and have me just basically buy the crypto, hold the crypto, put it into cold storage for you. You can sell it when you like. Some of the fine print and nitty gritty of that's got to be worked out, but if anybody's interested in having me just manage that, again, I'm not giving financial advice, just I'll basically buy what you say and store it for you safely offline, so that you've got a guaranteed stash. And there's a whole bunch of information to go over with that if you're wanting to go down that path. But obviously, I'm happy to advise on how to do it yourself. I can even buy it and then transfer it into your personal custody, etc. So I'm happy to help with that, but there's no reason that for most people you can't just go ahead and buy it yourself, especially if you want to dabble. I think that's the most interesting thing. If you want to just start sticking a little bit of savings away in crypto, then you're more than free to do that. And I recommend Coinbase with Binance and Kraken, two other exchanges, and FTX now is quite a nifty exchange, and they all provide really nice features for like tracking your portfolio and keeping an eye on where it's going, although it can become a bit of an addiction checking it every day. So yeah, I hope that's helped. I hope it hasn't created more questions than it's answered. I hope that you will put some money into crypto. I think that when we come back to this and we revisit this video, which I guess will be a sort of something of a marker in time, given where things go, I hope to come back to this video and have a bunch of people around me who have done very well in the crypto space between now and sort of 2035. And hopefully some of them will be like, oh, thanks for making that video and getting me involved. Or it'll all crash and burn and we'll be poor and destitute. But of course, that could happen anyway, whether we invest in crypto or not. So that's it. I'm going to end the video now. And if anybody wants to leave any comments about things I could retread or maybe go in more detail, or if you just want to tell me how boring I am, feel free, and I'll see you next time.